Hey everybody, welcome to the 1804 show, chapter 2. I'm your host, Dollar Will, and this is another episode of 1804 History. Yeah, I just want to say thank y'all for joining me tonight because I've really been anticipating this episode all day and really wanted to give y'all the history behind this strong, beautiful family right here. And we're going to be talking about the Shakurs. People familiar with Tupac Shakur, but people don't know how deep his bloodline was and why he was the way he was because of these roots. And it's just crazy knowing the the strength of this family because they have endured so much because they literally have like thousands and thousands of FBI files as a whole collective. It is just it's crazy what they went through, but they prevailed through it all. And since I'm gonna be talking about four of them, it's many more, but I decided to break down four because of um, these four really was very influential and controversial figures and everything. So I want to talk about Mutulu Shakur. Dr. Mutulu Shakur was his stepfather, and his stepfather pretty much incarcerated right now. Um, he was sentenced 70 years for conspiracy and practically, um, let me see, how can I word this? um, well, he was in charge of a criminal enterprise. That's what they say, because he was part of the Black Liberation Army, and him and 12 others just organized several bank robberies, and two cops was killed in the process, and his accomplices was arrested, um, like each by each, and he was on the run for 4 years. He was apprehended in Los Angeles, California, after being on the run for 4 years, and he was extradited back to New York to face criminal charges, and he was sentenced to 70, well, close to 60 to 70 years without parole, and he's still incarcerated in a federal prison today. And he was just one of those good guys, and he did acupuncture for people who coming back from Vietnam who was on heroin and everything, and he had an office in New York and treated patients and stuff like that, attended meetings, and he was very articulate, very charismatic individual, and he's just always been about coming together and just really being about the struggle and stuff. And he also helped Tupac with the Thug Life codes, and I'm going to explain that a little bit later, but he was just very involved, um, teaching Tupac and being like a surrogate father because Tupac real father Billy Garland was absent, So he pretty much took him under his wing and raised him until 1981 when he had to be on the run for 5 years. So just reading the story and watching American Gangster on this episode, I could say that like he was a brave man because the same cop that arrested him ended up being arrested too for the same thing, but for like jewelry heist. But he wasn't even at the crime scene because it was a like a armored truck where millions and millions of dollars were stolen from the truck, and two cops got killed, and he was practically to blame. He was the ringleader, so they say, and he was labeled a terrorist, and he was on a FBI wanted list in that year of 1981. So he's still in prison, and he been denied parole several times. So hopefully, he gets released because he's in his 70s, and I believe that he served his time, and they should let him go. But they just keeping him locked up as many political prisoners to create this narrative and keep this narrative going. And it's just unfortunate to be locked up for almost 40 years. Yeah, it's 40 years. Yeah, like almost 41 years. Yeah, he been locked up almost. So the second person that I want to talk about is Miss Asada Shakur. She is Tupac's aunt, Matulu's sister, and when I mean by aunt and sisters, it's pretty much like they in the same clique, same clan. Um, it was pretty much tribal, It was like once like they got together and everything, they was automatically family. So they took on the moniker, they took on the last name of Shakur automatically. So Tupac really had like a big family due to um, being raised by Black Panthers and being raised by Black Liberation Army members, and also um, being like New African Panthers. So he was raised by like a whole clique of people. And so Mr. Shada Shakur, her situation occurred one night in New Jersey where um, her friend and also her was stopped, routine traffic stop, so they thought. So they ended up killing her friend with his own gun because they made him get out the car. So they killed her friend, and then she comes out with her hands up like this, comes out with her hands up, and they shoot her twice. So they shot her, she falls to the ground, and then she gets shot in her back once more. So they left her for dead because they didn't think she survived that. So they handcuffed her and took her to the nearest hospital, and then they beat her up. They beat her up. They refused medical attention for a number of hours, and then she was in jail with untreated gunshot wounds. So after that, they made her get surgery so she can stand trial. So An all-white jury sentenced her to life in prison at Clinton Correctional Facility in Delaware, New York. And I want y'all to keep in mind because that's going to play a part later on in the episode so y'all can see the connection. So rumors are that the same Black Liberation Army helped her escape outside of prison. So that's one thing I could say, like, she bad. She was like one of the baddest women ever. And she escaped all the way to Cuba. And Fidel Castro refused to give her back because she was counted as a refugee from the United States. And she was the first woman to be on the FBI wanted list because her reward was worth $15,000 since she escaped. But now the reward had risen up to $2 million. So she's still a wanted woman in the United States of America, and she hasn't been back in the United States since the 70s. And she has an autobiography, and I highly recommend this book. Highly recommend for you guys to check it out because it's a good autobiography, one of the greatest books I ever read. That's one of the books I stole from my sister while she was going to college. So it's one of those books that I highly recommend and for y'all to check it out for more info. So Tupac's mom, Afina Shakur, um, she was in the infamous Panther 21, and it was her and 20 more people who was facing 300 and some odd years in prison for conspiracy and attempting to blow up city landmarks, attempted to kill cops, attempted to perform bank robberies and all that stuff. And while she was in the county jail, she was pregnant with Tupac. So she was the only one that didn't have a lawyer out of these 21 people. So she didn't have a lawyer. So when she went to trial, she defended her own case and represented herself. And she was acquitted of all charges. All of them were because of her. Because lack of evidence, it was proving that they went to her house or the headquarters because she was stationed in Harlem, New York. So there were no warrant for them to come in and to arrest them. So she ended up beating all the charges that was pointed against her and the other 20 people. And then a month later, she gave birth to Tupac Amaru Shakur. And it's just amazing knowing that, like, your family, was so dope like this, and your family was so strong and so intelligent. And I believe his family really played a part of who he became and who he were as a man and as an individual because um, even as a kid, Tupac was just aware of the system. And the system, when I mean by the system, it's the FBI and the government and COINTELPRO. And COINTELPRO was a program that was issued to destroy black um, nationalists, black leaders, black celebrities, black people in general. That was really a, a death warrant. And if you was on the list, if you was singled out, if you was any type of person that had influence on the American people, then you was a target. So a lot of people don't even know that the Black Panthers and any other national organization from the Nation of Islam, SCLC, Yes organization, Black Panther Party, um, just any type of um, war movement or whatever. Um, they gave police officers and agents, sorry, the okay to kill you. But first, they will play gangs against each other. They would play for instance, like in Chicago, they would have Jeff Ford's organization gang fighting against the Black Panther Party. And in Oakland, they would have the Black Panther Party fighting against the Yes organization. So they would have these cartoons and they would write these fake messages and say, oh, so and so got a hit on you. Or they will like issue agents, like get black people off the street or that's already in the Black Panther Party and have them become informants. And this is why we can't have nothing because there's always somebody that's on the inside to try to destroy us and bring us down. And this is really what's go on today. If you think that this COINTEL program isn't happening today, like you was mistaken, you was fooled. This shit still goes on, still happens today. Even in 2022, this shit's still going on today. But one thing that a lot of people don't understand and don't know is that Pac was a Black Panther leader at 17 because he was the leader of the New African Panthers in 1988. When he was 17, he was elected chairman of that. He felt like if his rap career didn't blow up, he would have went back down to Atlanta and led this new political party. And one thing I always admire about him was that he cared about the little people. He cared about the poor. He always discussed social change and was very socially aware about what we needed to do amongst black people and just trying to get us together and try to have us all at one accord. And then like the thug life thing, the hate you give little infants, fuck everybody. That was just one of those um, things that he wanted to make. He wanted to wanted to politicize the gangs in California and all over the country. So he was going to um, have the Bloods and Crips unite, GDs, Vice Lords, um, BDs, a little bit everybody to come under one umbrella, Thug Life, and It's just people really got caught into the music and the media of painting him as a menace, as a thug, and his way of thug was way different from the direct meaning of thug, um, but because he was a Shakur, he was targeted. Of course, if anybody who don't think he was like a target of the FBI or counterintelligence or anybody, then you're a fool. Because he got beat up by two white police officers in Oakland, California, because he was jaywalking, and he was arrested for jaywalking. But these cops beat him up pretty bad, scraped his face against the concrete on the ground, and was kicking him, stomping him, and they put him in a chokehold till he became unconscious. And many people die in police custody by being put in a chokehold. He ended up winning that case and was rewarded $42,000 for that. And I already explained about what happened in Atlanta, where he was coming back from Atlanta, Clark, Atlanta, homecoming, and he shot those two cops. And then a month later, he get charged with sodomy and rape in New York, and being shot 5 times at Quad Studios. But a lot of people don't know that the same cop that arrested him at the rape case, for the rape case, was the same cop that was there when he was shot 5 times. And he got sentenced to 1.5 and 4.5 years in prison at Clinton Correctional Facility, the same prison that his aunt went through. And it's crazy because he was put in solitary confinement for 23 hours a day before he broke a rule. So they were just beating him up, slapping him, and calling him nigga, and really was making his life a living hell, and putting stuff in his food. It was times he didn't eat. It was times that he didn't want to shower and stuff like that because he didn't know what was going to happen. People was trying to kill him, all types of stuff. So about a book that I read on this was he went to Death Row Records and made one of the greatest albums of all time, All Eyes on Me. But then he wanted to go back into his revolutionary, his political rap lyrics from the first album, Tupacalypse Now. So he was going back to that formula with 7 Day Theory, the Don Cluminati. And, you hear it with White Man's World, you hear it with um, Blasphemy, you hear it with Bound First, you hear it with many other songs. Like he was really registering people to vote. He was really starting to formulate like a political party for independent people. If they didn't want to vote Democrat or Republican, he was going to have his own political party so he can go to Washington and run for office. And that was the thing that he wanted to do. He felt like he accomplished what he accomplished besides being a rapper and an actor, but he wanted to be a politician as well. He wanted to um, you know, get community centers. He wanted to start football leagues. He also wanted people to, um, donate to to the kids. Sending kids to college, and he really had it all mapped out. He was working with Monster Cody to make it happen. So Pac really was more than just a rapper, and people need to understand that. And instead of really focusing on the rap aspect, really focus on like the consciousness and the revolutionary side. But these four revolutionaries, as far as the people goes, I mean, face tremendous odds and really put their lives on the line. Because two of them out of four are dead. Afeni and Tupac are dead now. And, Afeni was more than just Dear Mama. There was, the crack fiend and stuff like that. Like, the only reason why she went to crack was because after she was acquitted, you never really a normal person after that. Um, it was difficult for them to, well, difficult for her to find work because Matulu was on the run. So Matulu left them really premature. So she was stuck with raising Tupac and raising his little sister by herself. So she couldn't find work. She couldn't keep a job. She couldn't keep a stable living environment. So they was homeless multiple times and moved to multiple locations and was always harassed by the police because they didn't know where he was at. So police officers or FBI agents will go up to Tupac and his sister or his cousins or whatever, will be trying to intimidate them and ask them for Matulu Shakur's whereabouts. And we just harass them on a normal basis, all because of the fact that um, Matulu was their dad. You know what I'm saying? So I believe just after all these years, is that it's just a shame. It's a shame that we can't fight for what we believe in. We can't become brave. We can't become courageous. Because if we do, we would be considered a threat. We would be considered terrorists. And that's what happened to these four people. Because nothing really has changed from the 60s, the 70s, or the 90s. We still going through the same stuff that they went through in their prime. And we're in our primes now. So what can we do? How can we prevail? How can we overcome this? Because it's going down. And considering that tomorrow's the 4th of July, um, you won't see me celebrating it because this was never like our Independence Day to begin with. And I don't know why. I just think, a lot of people are oblivious to what's really happening. Like at the end of the day, it's like I understand people want to barbecues, people still want to have fun, but we not free. We are still going through the same atrocities. And I just wanted people to understand where this family has been through and has gone through and how strong they are. Because it takes strength to be able to, go through all of that and still become one of the greatest rappers of all time. And to make sure that they fought for what they believed in. You know, Matulu Shakur, Dr. Matulu Shakur, um, Asada Shakur, Afina Shakur, rest in peace. Tupac Shakur, rest in peace. And that would be the end of the episode, guys. And thanks to all who watch me. And remember, like, comment, subscribe to the YouTube channel, the 1804 History. And I'm out. Peace.